There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and today we're going to be taking a look at a module I just recently learned and I found to have loved, Voltorb Flip. So this is the way the module looks. It's got a display at the top here that says coins with a series of numbers at the top, and it's got a little 5x5 grid with some objects on the right side and the bottom side, and as well as a mode toggling of flipping and marking. So let's get into this. So as we said before, this module contains a 5x5 grid of tiles, and um, flipping over a tile will reveal a 1, 2, 3, or a Voltorb. The Voltorb is these little round guys here that look angry. Note that you don't want to be flipping those guys over, so that's going to be a huge hint there. So every time you flip over a numbered tile, you will earn coins. And the number of coins you will earn is the product of all the numbers of the revealed tiles. And flipping over a Voltorb will make you lose all your coins and give you a strike. So our goal here is to simply figure out where all our numbers are and also not run into any Voltorbs, because obviously you don't want to lose all your coins and it will give you a strike as well. That's not going to be fun. So we're going to complete this puzzle by flipping over every 2 or 3 tiles, because of the fact that if you multiply by 1, everything is just itself. So ones actually really don't help you. It's not additive or anything, but 2 or 3 huge multiplication stuff will give you more coins, which is exactly what you want. However, I wouldn't focus on the coin aspect of it until you get to the whole point of it being clues, which I will cover on later. Upon doing so, the module will solve, and you will win the amount of coins you collected. Of course, our goal here is we're going to flip over every 2 and 3 without running into any Voltorbs. So, on the bottom of each column and to the right of each row, there are numbers that give you hints about the tiles in the respective row or column. So, taking a look here, so if you happen to have already figured things out, what the 0 means next to the Voltorb, which is the little circle guy, means how many are present in that row or column, whichever it's specified. And the number at the top is a little bit weird. It's the sum of the numbers of the numbered tiles. That's where the importance of making sure that you know your sums for the tiles are come into play. It's not the multiplication of every single tile, because if there was because there's only 2 Voltorbs in this row, but we would still have 3 selected tiles. So what this means in this row is that all 3 of these guys add up to 3, which must mean that all 3 of them are 1s. So what we must do is we must simply use these clues and figure out where our Voltorbs are at, and we can simply mark them with our marking option. We'll mark them in this little yellow Voltorb, which means our tile is marked. And flipping them will simply give us the options. So we flip over the tile, and you'll see what I mean by that. So already, this is kind of similar to Battleship / Minesweeper / Pokemon. This is more of a Battleship kind of case. However, what it is essentially you're gonna the ships for Battleship would normally be guaranteed as like there would be like a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1 of some way, shape, or form. However, these guys are just a singular tile, so you don't know exactly where they're at. So that's why it's a mixture of Battleship and Minesweeper, but more of a Battleship. So already, one of the first things that you can do is if you have any Voltorbs with a row or column of 0, you can simply flip over all of those tiles because you're guaranteed to get some that there's no Voltorbs in there. Thanks to those clues. Whenever the lights turn back on, right, let's flip over all those tiles with a 0. And let's take a look here. So the additive sum of this row is 11. So we have 3 plus 3 plus 3, which gives us 9, plus 1 plus 1 is plus 2. So 9 plus 2 gives us 11. So that's the way that you know that you're done with that row. It's another way of helping to make sure that like once you found a sum, you're pretty much done with that area. And it also helps you look for the 2s and 3s. If you happen to find a row, for example, these guys up here, this row has 2 Voltorbs in it, but it has a sum of 3, which means that the other 3 tiles that don't have Voltorbs in them are automatically 1s. So we actually don't even really need to flip over those tiles. It does help though, like visually, to make sure that you've gotten everything that you need. But for example, this Voltorb with a 3 here, the row we have 3 Voltorbs in, this top row here, what this means is the fact that we have a sum of 3, and we only have 2 tiles that are non-Voltorbs. What this means is that there is at least a 2 in there, so we have to figure out our tiles up here. That's just a way of helping. That's just a way of helping you figure things out. But in most cases, that's pretty straightforward. Let's continue on. So we can also use this column right here and flip over these guys because there's no Voltorbs present at all. And if you notice, the coins have increased. 3 times 3 times 3, or 3 cube, gives us 27, which makes sense because 3 times 3 is 9, and then 9 times 3 is 27. So that's right. Let's continue on. So now here's where things get a little bit interesting. And here's where you have to sort of use the expert side to help you out. So there's going to be two clues that will always be guaranteed to give you of where a Voltorb is. This will be always where a Voltorb is and not where it isn't. So the first thing that we can do is, number one, we need to make sure that we understand how the tiles work and are notated. It's simply reading order. Top left tile is a 1, and bottom right is 25. Reading order going through rows of 5, and so on and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. And so for our first clue, we're going to take all the numbers and letters from the serial number and treat each letter as its position in the alphabet, A1Z26. And then the sum of all the characters of the serial number, we're going to sum all of these characters up, modulo 25, which corresponds to the first cell that contains a Voltorb. And if you happen to get 0, we're going to use 25. So let's get our serial number here real quick. So we have, so let's pop out our handy dandy calculator this time around. So we have Hotel, which is an 8, India, which is a 9, 9, which happens to be a 9, ironically enough, Alpha, which is a 1, Quebec, which is a 17, and 6, which is a 6. So adding all of this up, we're going to modulo this by 25. Oddly enough, we happen to get 0, so we're going to be using 25 instead, which guarantees that there will be a Voltorb at the position of 25. For our next clue, we're going to take the total number of letters throughout all ports on the bomb, and we're going to use the full port name, DVID stereo RCA, and serial, for example. And we're going to simply ignore modded ports, and we're going to take this number, modulo 25. So let's take a look at the number of ports. We have a parallel, and that's going to be it. Now, normally for those of you who do EFMings, you'd simply type out parallel like this, and just leave it be. However, parallel is actually spelled out like this, which happens to contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters. And what this means is that since that's the only port on our bomb, we're going to modulo that by 25. So that's not anything special because we don't need to do it. And the 8th tile is going to be consisting of a Voltorb as well. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these spots will be guaranteed to have Voltorbs present. Now, if 25 is indeed guaranteed to have a Voltorb present in this row, we already know that our Voltorb, this one Voltorb for row 5, has already been marked. So we can simply select the rest of these guys here. And just like that, it's done. So that means it's already correct. And if we happen to press it in time, it would simply let us know that there was a Voltorb present by making it colored instead of gold. So let's continue on. So now, taking a look at this column here, this column has only one Voltorb present, and what this means is that the rest of the tiles are perfectly fine. Next up, one of the biggest things that you can do is looking at the tiles remaining. We have 3 Voltorbs present in this column here, and we only have 3 unselected tiles left. So we can select those 3 guys here. Then next up, this row here, row 2, already has 2 marked Voltorbs. So that means the rest of the tiles are good to go. Okay, let's look around. This row 4 already has its 1 Voltorb marked, so we can select this guy and this guy. And just like that, it's a solved module. We didn't have to select that last one up at the top row. We simply had to select the last 3 that we had present, and just like that, the module is solved. Let's take a look at one other example, because this module is pretty straightforward, and if you happen to have multiple on a bomb, multiple examples on the bomb, the clues will always be the exact same, and they will always be a Voltorb. It's guaranteed to be a Voltorb, so it actually helps a lot. Let's take a look at one final example, and I don't want to focus simply on the diffuser side this time around. I want to focus simply on the visual side, because the manual work, it does a lot of explaining, but once you understand the basic concept of it, you're pretty much good to go. Screen mode. Let's take a look at one final example. Because this module actually is pretty easy to figure out. It's just understanding the concept of battleship and minesweeper, but understanding also that there is a big difference between this, and the ships are different, and the way the mines work is different, but otherwise pretty straightforward. It's just understanding how the clues work and how you can figure it out from here on there. So already one of the first things that we can do is take a look at column 1 over here. We have 0 Voltorbs present, so we can highlight all of these guys over here. And just like that, that works. Now, what this means is that we actually don't have any other options that we can go from here. So let's get the rest of our options here. So actually, let me pop out my handy dandy calculator one last time. And let's take a look at our serial number. So we have 2 plus 19, which is Sierra, plus 4, plus Sierra, which is 19, plus November, which is 14, plus 6. Modulo this by 25 gives us 14. 14 is our first spot that's a Voltorb. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 11, 12, 13, 14. And this spot is guaranteed to have a Voltorb. Now, already from this clue, we can already figure out that column 4 is good to go, so we can simply flip the rest of these guys over. And just like that, it is true. So we didn't happen to run into any Voltorbs at all, so we're good to go. Now, if we happen to flip over a wrong card that happens to be a Voltorb, what happens? That's not a Voltorb.
That's not it.
This will happen here, and we'll lose all our coins. However, coins, we said, are not the base goal here. So we want to just make sure that we don't run into any of those guys because we did receive a strike. So let's continue on. Let's figure out what our second clue is by taking a look at our ports, which we actually don't have any. So in this case, this would correspond to 0. And remember, if you get 0, we're going to use 25 instead. And of course, if it happens to be the same tile that contains the first Voltorb, you're going to use the next tile in reading order instead. So just make sure that you get that rule down. So we simply had 0 because we don't have any ports present on the bottom. So we're simply going to mark 25 as our other guy. Now, using this clue, row 5 is good to go because of the fact that we already had that one Voltorb marked, and we only have one Voltorb for this row. Same thing with this column. We only have one Voltorb for this column. Now, taking a look around, this row 1 up here only has 2 Voltorbs. We only have 2 tiles left that haven't been marked at all, and we haven't marked any Voltorbs. So this means that these 2 are Voltorbs. Next up, we already found our one Voltorb by accidentally striking on it, so this means that this row is clear. There are 2 tiles remaining with 2 Voltorbs. And just like that.
Is an acceptable answer. That's absolutely brilliant.
Apologies for that. And just like that, this is all module. As always, stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.